Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Legacies episode 307, titled Yup, It's a Leprechaun Alright, which premiered Thursday, March 18th, 2021 on the CW. I'm recording roughly an hour after the episode has aired, so huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Other video reminders are up on screen. Take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Huge YouTube shout out to Golden Angel 15. Hello again. In the games 1, 2, 3. Thank you for your questions. I believe I should have answered them by the time this video has posted. Very good questions. And also hello to Erica Sharp. Again, a question that was really good, and I hope I answered it by the time this video goes up though. But thank you guys for your comments on my 306 video, and just thank you so much for everybody who has watched for my Legacies videos. It truly astounds me every time that you guys are coming back just to hear what I have to say as I talk to myself with this. Very few people I know in my personal life who watch the show, they know of it, but they aren't keeping up with it. So coming here to talk about it and then talking back with the comments, it's just a great way to interact with a few people. Makes it a little trickier when you try to do these videos and I'm talking to myself. But anyways, let's get right into it. I'm not going to time myself today, but I am going to try to be mindful of the time. But let's start with what happened in this episode. So the episode quote of, what is it? Yup, it's a leprechaun, all right. It was said by Lizzie, and I believe it's to Caleb when she's actually looking through the book and confirming it's a leprechaun and what he is and isn't in that like jail cell moment, I believe. But when it comes to the timeline, I believe it's been a few days since 306 because Cleo did say to Hope that in the last few days you haven't asked asked to know anything about me, and I'm assuming she means like in the whole entirety that they've known each other and that they've been roommates. So I'm assuming it's just been a few days since she officially started, or she signed her enrollment papers to the school. Well, that's my reasoning for it, at least. So there's that. Episode reminder, the fact that we got to deal with the creepy leprechaun, and he is the featured creature of that creepy leprechaun. Ugh. I mean, also, it was also interesting because this is a leprechaun who doesn't really speak to our students. In the fact that, like, Hope tries translation spells, they fail. So he's talking, we don't know about what. And so he could be threatening them. He could be doing warnings and stuff. We have no idea. But we find out that he doesn't actually have a pot of gold. It's possible that he travels by a rainbow. He does, when he runs fast, it looks like he's leaving behind a rainbow. He's attracted to wealth, and he attracts wealth to him. And he seems to consume the wealth. Like he'll eat gold cufflinks. He'll eat ancient artifacts. He'll eat piles of money. He'll consume all of it, to the point that when he pretty much combusts into green goo, all of the stuff he consumed and stayed in his belly is now left for people to take. So I guess you could technically say that the contents of his belly is his pot of gold, which is gross, but technically. So there's that. Episode breakdown, I'm going to say it's about 3 different ones. First one being the school fundraiser on Overdrive. Second one, art therapy or therapy art. Third one, Garden Thoughts, which is kind of a mix of 2 storylines, but we'll culminate it into Garden Thoughts. So the first storyline deals with the pretty much what I'm going to call the A storyline. Is just because that is literally what you are going to remember this episode for, and that is Lizzie being charged of fundraising for the month to raise funds for the school, but then because they find out that Alaric gets his bank notice that they owe $91,000 in property taxes to the bank within a week, or the bank takes the school back, Lizzie fast tracks it to all that month worth of fundraising, which is really only 3 events, all going to be done in one day, which is that day. And they only give themselves 2 hours to promote the thing, and nothing happens. But then a leprechaun shows up, and then things just go overdrive with that, because now the leprechaun attracts people to come to their event where they spend and spend and spend, to the point that it's all good and well until that greed eventually drives them into violence to get what they're trying to buy, kind of a thing. Meanwhile, while all this is happening at the school, Alaric goes to the bank to try to deal with it on a human level and try to get a loan from the bank to help pay for the property taxes. He tries to put more personal assets into it, which he gets denied because it's such a huge risk type of thing. Also, he claims that the $91,000 in property taxes accumulated during his search for Landon in the 3 weeks. But I'm like, can you really accumulate that much money in only 3 weeks? I would have thought like maybe if like he neglected to pay like over months or something, it would, or years even, it would come up to be that much. But 3 weeks, that's like yikes, kind of a thing. So anyways, while Lark's dealing that with the bank, Caleb's left in charge of what's happening at the school. But it's not so much, well, I guess technically it does become a lot because of what the Leprechaun brings. So anyways, there's that. A part of the fundraiser is an art auction, which was proposed by Cleo as a way to use the art to help Hope cope with her grief. And one of these art little, all of her art tends to be a little bit more clinical than soulful. And Hope admits that she's been blocked ever since Landon died. So Cleo suggests that using the ashes of Landon and bringing him to life through art. Well, in this case, Landon's ashes are his Malivore goo. So instead, they turn the goo into clay, which then they made this bust of Landon's head. And first off, did they notice, like Cleo and Hope, which is a really lovely moment between them, but did they notice the clay was glowing as they were kneading it together? I mean, did they notice it, or was that just something for us to see that, like, his goo was being used towards something as well? Plus, we're going to talk about that moment later. So anyways, they have that. So now there's this bust of Landon, a really good one. And it's even said that Hope never tried to sculpt before until that day, and she ended up doing a really good job of it. We don't know if it's because of her motivation to make it look like Landon as close as possible and like bring him to life, kind of like quote unquote bring him to life, or if Hope is just naturally gifted at being an artist. No idea, but that's kind of where it goes from there. But then it also, something that was meant to be a healing factor for Hope doesn't really go so well when she finds out that she can't really sell the urn. Even if selling it for $91,000 was going to save the school, she can't do it. She's not ready to let Landon go. And that gets started when she finds out about the Leprechaun, because the Leprechaun is a Malivore monster. And if a Malivore monster is there, that means there has to be a pit to the prison world. So now she's determined to find that pit so she can get to the prison world to get to Landon. So yeah. So what was supposed to be, she took 1 step forward and 2 steps back in regards to that. And then we go to Garden Thoughts. Garden Thoughts we have featuring MG and Josie. So MG is rushing to find answers about this illusion spell dropping on his Flash figurine, which is meant to hide the box. Or I don't know if like the figurine was always an illusion and it was just to hiding the box, or if the box was the illusion that was hiding the figurine. I don't know. But then he freaks out more. I thought he was freaked out about the Flash figurine disappearing, but then it turns out it's what's in the box that disappears that he's freaking out over, which we find out later on what's in it. But then while he's trying to rush to find answers about what happened to it, turns out that Josie is stressed when she comes over to visit to kind of distract herself. We find out she's stressing over her study date with Finch, to the point that she ends up skipping it because she doesn't want to make too much of a big deal out of it. But then that ends up backfiring on her to the point where she has to go now rush to find Finch at work and apologize for skipping out on her and actually ask her out on a date instead of a semi is this or isn't study date. So yeah, and then because she did that after advice that MG took, this leads us to the final scene of the episode where MG tells Lizzie that he lied about Alyssa destroying the Ascendant, and he had the Ascendant the whole time, but now he's lost it. But before Lizzie could side with him and give any answer, she sees Hope was standing behind MG and heard everything, and she can't defend MG from Hope if Hope already knows. So now he's kind of stuck in a pickle because Hope found the Ascendant in the remains of what was left of the Leprechaun's belly, because it did consume the money that they collected from the fundraiser, any good artifact at the school, and then some. And then when he died, it got left to them, which is also another thing too. After they paid back all the people who tried to buy stuff at the fundraiser, they used all the extras that the Leprechaun consumed to help them pay for their, I believe it was just for the property tax. I don't know if they're completely covered in regards to like all their school fees and stuff. But anyways, it's a semi-resolved there. But let's move on to characters. So characters for Finch, we find out she works at the grill after school. She does double shifts on the weekends. And we find out that she doesn't go near drugs. I don't know if it's drugs like in general or if it's just weed specifically, because Josie kind of mentioned the fact that she was kind of high on weed. She doesn't tell that it was truth weed that she was on, but Finch makes the clear statement, like, I don't go near that stuff kind of thing. So there's that. Ethan, we find out, either works at the grill or he used to work at the grill, because he's the one that told Josie about Finch working at the grill. So there's that. From Cleo, we find, again, Ethan was only in one scene. I mean, the guy is a series regular. Can we give him more than one scene in each episode he's in, please? Thank you. I really don't know if that's a COVID scheduling thing or not at this point. Anyways, Cleo, we find out her sisters were murdered and she was the only survivor. I do not know if, like, sisters, she means, like, blood sisters, or if she actually means, like, maybe coven sisters. But either way, she was the sole survivor, and it's the reason why she's against violence of any kind. And she had, due to the traumatic experience, she had to really she really had to learn what it meant to move on. So there's that. We also find out, or we see her getting the Cliff Notes version of what Malivore is and who Landon is. So there's that. Wade, we find out, or I guess we get confirmation that he, as a fairy, he doesn't have heightened hearing. But it also looks like he doesn't know much more about his powers than the first time we really got confirmation that he was a fairy. Which I kind of feel bad. I wish he knew more. And I wish also we knew more too. But also we get the return of Vera Lillian, which was Dana's mom. If you remember, she was a student a rival student that got killed by, I think, that the arachnid in season 1. Anyway, she works at the bank. She separated from Dana's father recently after Dana died, and she hits on a lark. Like, she propositions him, and I'm like, ugh, no thank you. I don't want to see that. That's inappropriate. So there's that. Let's move to tidbits, though. So we got confirmation that 30 students are enrolled at the school, and yet we only see 10 of them at the assembly. Well, technically 9, and then MG makes number 10 for sleeping in. But we don't know where the other 20 students are, even though they're technically enrolled. But it has me wondering, for 30 students, that's enough for one class. So does that mean that Alark is teaching them all of their classes? Kind of like pulling a Mr. Feeney, in a way, instead of just being a history teacher. So that's going to be interesting. Because, again, we don't have any teachers at the school. We never saw any teachers at the school. The only other faculty we ever saw was Dorian and Emma, and then when they left, no one else. And I'm not going to count Puck, because he was only in for the one episode and posing as a guidance counselor. So that was just, he wasn't enough to establish himself as a teacher, like a staying teacher, or a permanent teacher, I should say. So there's that. We also find out in this episode that Alyssa actually dumped MG after she got caught cheating, even though we kind of assumed beforehand that MG was the one that dumped her after finding her that she cheated on him with Jed. But no, apparently it was Alyssa, so that was a surprise. We also have Ethan giving the same warning to Josie about Finch that he gave to Maya, his sister. So that's a little something there. This is also the episode where we see the bank in Mystic Falls. I don't think we've ever had to go to the bank in the Vampire Diaries, and then we definitely wouldn't need a reason in the original since that took place in New Orleans. So seeing the bank in this universe was kind of weird. But yeah. And also we got a little bit of a herbology lesson in the Salvatore Garden. Apparently there's 2 gardens. One that's the little kids are allowed to go to because all the stuff planted there are safer. And then there's one that's more restricted for like the older students. But Josie and MG were spending their time in the younger garden. So everything in there was meant to be safe. And we find out that 2 leaves that look identical, almost identical. One of them tastes like cinnamon, and that was meant to help bake things twice as fast, which is what they're trying to do with their cookies. And another one taste like mint, which is what Josie ended up taking, and it ended up being a truth weed. So she was kind of stuck telling the truth. So there's that. But let's move on to most shocking moment of the episode. I think for me is the fact that MG lied about the Ascendant. Or he lied about Alyssa destroying the Ascendant for the prison world that the Malivore was trapped in. I mean, I thought it really was something else that he had a big secret about. Like maybe there was human blood bags in that box of his and not the Ascendant itself. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out why he would lie about that. Especially after finding out about Landon. Plus, yeah. I really don't know. We'll bring that up later. But that was the shocking moment there, that was the secret. Because I thought it was something else like huge that would really change the way we see him and stuff. Well, I guess it's going to change the way Hope sees MG, but like Lizzie said, it would be kind of hypocritical of her to think of MG any differently after everything she's put him through in regards to like how he views her and stuff, you know. So there's that. Moving on to top 3 favorite moments. First one is Hope and Cleo, especially their little art collaborations together. It's just really great to see this friendship that's blooming between the two of them. It kind of hurt when Hope started looking at Cleo as if she betrayed her after Cleo killed the Leprechaun. She didn't mean to, but the Leprechaun did attack Alaric. So, so like she had to do something. But again, Hope feels betrayed because she needed the Leprechaun alive for him to lead her back to the Malivore pit. But I'm really liking the art that they were doing together. The whole confiding in each other and trying. Yes, I could see how Cleo is seeing how Hope is more skewed on like what's going on in her life and not really interested in Cleo. But then at the same time, like Cleo seems to have such knowledge to her, and I don't know if it's the way she holds herself and the way she articulates certain things, but it just feels like I feel like she's been through a lot. And I really want to know what that is. We got a little bit of it when she talks about her sisters. But at the same time, I'm really hoping she's not someone that's going to betray us later. I don't want her to be a Trojan horse. I really want Cleo to be here to stay for more than this season. Like, I really want her to be a permanent student here. And, like, not someone I'm going to have to fight against later on. So I'm all for this Hope and Cleo friendship. I'm hoping Hope can get past this, and I hope that her obsession with Landon doesn't put a wedge between her and Cleo. Just saying. Okay, another favorite I did have was actually Alaric and Caleb. They've come a long way since season 1. And I'm really liking that Alaric is trying to put more responsibility and trust into Caleb, and Caleb's really trying to step up to that role. Even the fact that he dressed up the way that he did and tried to really do things the way that were supposed to be, like the way that he was told to do them properly, just to prove that he can follow simple rules and show that he can take charge yet still keep to how things are done. It was very interesting. And then what I really liked the fact is that Alaric was told that Caleb was not to blame. Like Lizzie told Alaric that Caleb was not to blame. It was all her idea. And what I really like is that Caleb actually confessed that his part to it all. He didn't just go with what Lizzie was saying, which kept him off the hook. Instead, he confessed that like he still went along with it, thinking his way would work, and it wasn't exactly what Alaric wanted to happen. But I really like that he owned up to it. It's just like these two have come a long way, and the fact that Alaric is willing to bring Caleb into the fold, especially with how you remember what their dynamic was in season 1, it's quite a progress there, and I'm really enjoying that. Top 3, or not top 3, the third one. I'm just gonna jump all the way back to the beginning. Third peeve I had, or not peeve. Wow, geez, I'm tired. My third favorite is Josie and Finch. The idea that they had a study date. I kind of wish that we saw it, but then again, I kind of know why we couldn't. But I really like that Josie waited and she went straight to Finch and pretty much told her as much of the truth as she could without revealing the whole magic bit. And then I can also understand Finch wanting to keep her distance because she pretty much went all out from the very beginning, and then with this date and then Josie not showing up, it felt like, oh, I read things wrong, I'm gonna step back then. But then Josie's like, no, it's like, I screwed up before I even had a chance. And she asked her out, full out asked her out. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I know why they were standing so close to each other, and it could be a height thing, but like Josie looked like she was towering over Finch. And for me, that made me uncomfortable, just the whole the towering from that close of a distance. But then again, that's just me. Also, I'm usually the one that's taller, so like, I don't know. But anyways, it was very, because it was interesting the fact that with how close they were standing and the fact that Josie was asking her out, it was leading us to believe that they were going to kiss. And I was very shocked that they didn't. And then like Josie, I thought Finch was pretty much telling her no. It's like, you missed your shot kind of a thing. So when she turned away and like you could see like Josie being broken, I was like, oh shit. Like, is that it? It's like, I was completely like not where I thought this scene was going, especially with where they were standing just a moment ago. And then to have Finch turning around saying that she does double shifts on the weekend, but we can figure out a time as I drive you home, as she gets the second helmet out from her bike. And I'm like, wow, you had me hopeful, and then you had me disappointed, and then you had me hopeful again. I'm like, wow. It's just like, it's like, well done. Like, you really blew my expectation out of the water. It's like, yes, I wanted them to agree to a date. Going into this, when she first asked that question, go on a date with me. Like, can we have an actual date? Like, go to dinner with me, like that, like an actual ask. I expected it to be like a kiss, and then that was confirmation, or like the yes, and then go into a kiss. So I was expecting that. And then when that didn't happen, I was like, wait, am I reading this wrong? Like, is she gonna say no? And then when she turned away, and then Josie turned away, it's like, oh no, like, they're not like, what's going on here? And then to have Finch turn around again to, in her way, say yes by saying like, well, I'm busy on the weekends, but we'll figure it out as I drive you home. And then to see Josie's face go from disappointed to being like shocked yet pleased when she took that helmet, and then to have Finch help her put the helmet on. And I'm just like, you just put me through a very quick ringer right there with like, you were going to say no. It's like, we were going to say yes. No, you said no. It's like, oh, you said yes. It's just like, oh, make up your mind already. It's like, I can't handle it. But it was still my favorite though. It was just like, I really want to see, not only do I want to see more of Josie and Finch, but I do want to learn more about Finch. But I also like that they both stood their ground. I like that they were honest with each other, and like Josie's fear of like her overthinking about the date, and then also Finch being honest about the fact that like why she was angry for the or not angry, why she was upset over the fact that Josie didn't show up, and it wasn't. I like that she didn't downplay what the date or what the study date was, because you know some people when things don't go their way, they'll downplay. It's like, oh, that didn't bug me, or it's like, no, it didn't mean anything to me. I like that they didn't go that route. I like that they said, yeah, it meant a lot and it hurt. You do so much more with that. So I'm going to stop rambling about them, but I'm loving the potential with Josie and Finch. So it's like, I want to see more. So that's why it's a favorite. Now move on to top 3 peeves. The one peeve I have is just the fact that the truth weed that Josie took could have caused so much more damage and chaos than what they used it for. It's like that the use of the truth weed that was a side plot that they used in this episode. I feel like the truth weed could have been used as like a bigger plot point in like an episode in itself where it caused issues, or it could have been used when it dealt with the Leprechaun, right? So it's like it could have been used a lot more than just to get the truth out of Josie about how she feels about her date with Finch. Right? Maybe it's because I read too much Harry Potter fan fiction, where the Veritaserum is used in a lot of the stories that I tend to gravitate towards, because it's always interesting to see when those characters get stuck on that stuck on Veer to Serum and they have secret crushes and how that's gonna come all down and stuff. Anyways, so this is just a small pee, but I really felt like the truth weed could have been used in a bigger capacity, and it could have helped them a lot more than just using it for Josie to confess about her feelings to MG about Finch, right? So there's that. Moving on to random questions though. First one, I was kind of surprised that Cleo and Hope didn't mention this, but is no one going to mention the fact that Hope just made a clay bust of Landon, who is the son of Malivore, who is a creature made of mud, and the clay was glowing when they incorporated the Malivore goo into it. I mean, that has to be something. When the clay glowed, I thought, are they about to actually make him a body and like make their own version of Landon? Not like just a bust, but like a literal own version of Landon, because again, his father is made of mud. Why not use Hope's blood to make Landon's version of how Malivore was made? It's like, I kept thinking that. And then the fact that they didn't even comment on the fact that they literally just made Landon into like the literal version of his father, a mud creature. I'm like, they made so many Leprechaun lucky puns, and yet you couldn't mention or make notice of the fact that you made clay Landon. Like, literally clay Landon. Right? So that was the question. Is no one not going to talk about that? Another question. Why did MG lie about the Ascendant? Because I'm assuming he told everybody the Ascendant was destroyed before they found out about Landon disappearing in Malivore goo. Right? So I'm wondering why he didn't just confess immediately afterwards, or why did he lie about Alyssa destroying the Ascendant to begin with? Like, what purpose does that hold? Plus, also, why keep it from Alaric, the headmaster of the school? Because I know that Alyssa gave the Ascendant over to MG because she didn't think of who better to protect it. But then, which I understand, but then does that mean Alyssa just left with everybody thinking she destroyed the Ascendant, or she took the Ascendant with her? Like, why would MG keep up that ruse then if she's the one who started it? I don't know. And while we're talking about Alyssa, do we know why she left the Salvatore school? I mean, Alyssa, why did Alyssa leave the school? Not ignoring the fact that the actor has her own show and that's why she had to be written off of Legacies. But what was the reason why Alyssa left the school? Do we know? I don't know. So there's that. Another question was, why does Hope assume that the Malivore monsters return to the pit after getting what they want from the real world? Because I don't recall there being a case of them returning to the Malivore pit. Because the only time I remember them going back to the pit is because they were going back to report to the necromancer who was beside the Malivore pit. Otherwise, every other time, I'm pretty sure the Malivore monster tried to get as far away from the pit as possible because the pit was their prison. Why would they want to return to their prison after getting what they wanted? Also, I know why. Okay, so in season 1, when the monsters came specifically to grab the 3 keys to Malivore, they were specifically searching for Landon because Landon would lead them to the 3 keys. And then once they grabbed the keys, then they'd go back to the Malivore pit because they had to give the keys back to Malivore. Okay, so that makes sense. But in season 2, when there were no keys to return to Malivore, why would the monsters feel inclined to go back to the pit? The only reason I could think that they were going back to the pit is because they had to report back to the necromancer who was hiding out with the pit. That's the only reason why I would think that she would assume that. But if there's no necromancer and there's no need to find keys, why would Hope assume that the monster would go back to the pit? If nothing's keeping them tethered to the pit, why would they go back to their former prison? Right? That's something that felt iffy to me. and I wasn't really understanding it. Plus, also, there's the question of why did the Leprechaun target the Salvatore school? Was it because it was attached to the wealth on the property itself? Or was it attracted to something on the property? Or was it there to get the Ascendant? That's another thing, too, because, again, the monsters went to get the keys from Malivore. So maybe Malivore sent the Leprechaun to go get the Ascendant to bring it back to him. Is that the reason? That would make sense. Or did they explain that? I don't recall. But yeah, that's a semi-question there, because I maybe might have answered it while trying to explain what I was going for. Anyways, there's that. And my last question was, what does Ethan know about Finch to make him feel inclined to give the warning he did to Josie, and repeated warning if he gave it to Maya beforehand? So that's one there. But let's move on to predictions very quickly. Based on the promo for 308, it looks like Hope gets word from Landon that he is alive, and with that proof, she wants to go to the prison world to get Landon back, because she's trying to organize her own little search and rescue team. But MG defends that it's too dangerous, arguing that he's seen the prison world with all the monsters, and it's not the place to go. If we remember, he went there through astral projection with Lizzie. So there's that. But the synopsis reads for the episode that MG finds himself on the outs with the Super Squad after a controversial decision he made comes to light. So that's got to be about the Ascendant. Anyways, Hope puts a risky plan in motion regardless of the potential consequences. Oh, she's going to go to the prison world. And then Caleb, Cleo, and Alaric join forces when the latest monster shows up. Josie, Lizzie, and Jed also appear. Again, no mention of Ethan. There's also no mention of Landon either. Yeah, there's no mention of Ethan anywhere, and usually he would have showed up in, like, the also appears part. And then same with Landon. He's not mentioned too. Although in today's episode, Ethan wasn't mentioned at all in the synopsis, and he did appear. So maybe it's throwing me off. But then Landon didn't appear at all in this episode. And the same thing, he wasn't mentioned at all in the synopsis, and yet it proved true. So in this in the 308, either it'd be interesting. Okay, if Landon isn't mentioned in the synopsis at all, and he actually doesn't appear in the episode, it'd be very interesting if Hope actually goes in the prison world and can't find Landon there. Then that would mean that he's in a different prison world somehow. Right? I don't know. But then Ethan, I don't know what he would be involved in. But I just need him in at least more than one scene per episode. I'm getting tired of that. I mean, he's a series regular. Give him more, you know? But otherwise, from all that, do I have any other predictions? Oh, we didn't see Gabby. I just realized. We didn't see new student Gabby. Interesting. Oh, no, wait. That was for a different show, what I just remembered. Great. Forgot to record that. Yeah, I'll definitely... Well, I guess there's a question of, is the financial issue still going to be a problem for the school, or did what the Leprechaun left in its belly enough to cover the property tax issue they had, and then all the tuition fees? Like, are they back to normal standing now, or what? Like, is that going to be a continued issue? No idea. But yeah, I don't know how Lark's going to deal with that. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see about that. And that's next week's issue. But what did you guys think of this episode? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all the good stuff, all fun in one place. So go check that out. I am behind, fully aware of that. But I have one more week left of my program, and then I will be free for a week before I start my new program. But in that free week, I plan to update Tumblr and then also update WordPress, which is also linked down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress, a little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. And as you know, if I update Tumblr, WordPress goes along with it because they're kind of a joint deal. And I usually spend a good chunk of a day doing it. Like, it's all one go. So if I'm choosing a day to do Tumblr, I'm updating all of Legacies, updating all of the Flash, all of of, well, usually there'd be a lot more shows, but everything is slowly coming back. Not everything's back at once right now, but I usually do them all in one go at what comes up on Tumblr, and then all of it gets updated. But anyways, I keep rambling, but there's that. So coming soon, I will be updating with all the new season 3 stuff. And yeah, yep, mention that. Yep, we're good. But yeah, guys, so check until next time. Check out my other videos in the meantime. Otherwise, check back. I think it's next week we're coming back. I don't think I don't think we have a break. It's Walker that also pairs with the show. They get a break next week. I don't know why, but Legacies is still coming back. So check back in next week to see what I have to say about the next episode. But until then, guys, oh, and by that time, I would have already had my final class. It's still surreal for me thinking about that. But anyways, guys, I gotta go. My throat hurts. So until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Bye, guys. Take care.